Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. What I will be discussing tonight will be the use of a transistor in electronics. The number one use of a transistor in electronics is actually as an amplifier. So I will be showing you tonight an assembled do-it-yourself amplifier, a single transistor, plus two support components. So it will act as an amplifier, and this is actually the what you call this assembled amplifier. Single transistor, two support components, one resistor, and one electrolytic capacitor. Of course, with a what you call this a speaker, a terminal in which the operating voltage will be injected, and a terminal in which the audio signal will be coming in. Okay? The schematic diagram of the derived or the assembled transistor as an amplifier is this one. Okay? This is the schematic diagram. This is where we inject the signal. Okay? The operating voltage will be injected on this portion here. Of course, the other terminal to inject a voltage is the ground. So if I will try to discuss this schematic diagram, this is a Q sub 1, meaning Q sub 1, the designation of transistor in a schematic diagram is actually Q. So this is a subscript 1, meaning transistor number 1. And the markings on the body is Douglas 1555. If we try to bring out the pin diagram of this one, this is the pin diagram of that Douglas 1555. This one. Okay. There is terminal number 1, number 2, number 3. Number 1 is the base, number 2 is the collector, number 3 is the emitter. Okay. Like what I said, it acts as an amplifier, meaning to say we applied a small signal on the audio in, okay, the output will be coming out on the collector, okay, it will grow bigger. That's why the term amplifier or signal booster, small signal, bigger signal, that is termed to as amplifier, amplified. We amplify a small signal, it will go to a bigger signal by using a single transistor. Because transistor, the number one use of a transistor is actually as an amplifier. Okay? So this is now the assembled single transistor as an amplifier. Okay? This will be the electrolytic capacitor, the 680 resistor, terminal number 1, 2, 3, this is base, this collector, emitter. The signal will be injected through this capacitor here. And it will come out on the collector. This is the collector, the emitter terminal. Come out on the collector, like what I said, come out. So, of course, it will go to the speaker. And the other end of the speaker, for this assembled schematic amplifier, that will be our plus terminal. This is where we will inject the plus voltage, okay, the red one. So from the speaker, it goes to this. That's where we place the applied voltage, okay. The other terminal to inject a voltage is actually the ground. The ground is actually the black terminal, and this black terminal here actually emanates from the emitter. This is the emitter, the one with the arrow, it goes to ground. So on the actual thing, this is the emitter, okay, it goes to the ground. So when we try to inject a voltage, it should be between ground and plus terminal. This is plus, this is minus. So we are now through with the voltage injection points. The other injection points for an amplifier is actually where we inject the signal. We inject the signal through this terminal here. The yellow one and the white one. The white one is actually the ground. It is also connected to ground. And this yellow terminal actually emanates from the end of the electrolytic capacitor. Like what I said, we inject the signal through the capacitor. So it goes in here, it goes to the yellow thing, it will enter the electrolytic capacitor, then it will enter the base. Then it will be amplified. It will be amplified because that's the function of a transistor. Okay? The signal is passes through the capacitor, it will go to the base. Of course, it will go inside the transistor will now be working. Okay, so of course it will bring out sound. So from small to a bigger one. The other component of this do-it-yourself illustration for tonight is my 12 volt voltage regulator. My 12 volts voltage regulator is this one. I use a 7812. I assembled also this one. Okay, so this is the assembled 7812 voltage regulator. It got diodes. This is the 7812 voltage regulator. The output of this one is 12 volts. And it is now powered up. And as you can see it, the voltage output is actually 12.28. And this 12.28 will be the one to be injected on the amplifier for it to function. Okay? For this 7812, this is an easy one to assemble. You just bring out the pin diagram. Again, there is a 1, 2, 3. 1 refers to the input voltage, 2 is the ground, and 3 is actually the voltage output. So the voltage output goes to the terminal of the electrolytic capacitor, and this the output of this one is actually the one on the meter. Okay, let's now try to operate this do-it-yourself single transistor amplifier and do-it-yourself 12 volts voltage regulator. I will now try to inject a signal here emanating from my FM receiver here. Okay, this is the audio out. It goes in here. So if I will try to make this one alive, there will be a sound coming from that one, and I will inject it here. Okay, I will now try to inject, and let's try to see if this amplifier really works. That's the number one function of a transistor that will be in electronics as an amplifier. Meaning to say, if we inject a small signal, it will make that signal bigger for us to hear it very good. Okay, I will now try to make the FM receiver alive, and let's try to see if it could amplify the sound coming in. It works. Okay. It works. It works. We inject an audio here. It will pass through the transistor. The transistor acting as an amplifier amplify it, and that amplified sound will be going out on the speaker, and as we could hear it, the sound is really amplified. It's not so big, but it amplifies the small signal coming from the FM receiver. That's the number one function of a transistor. Okay, before we will go for tonight, I will try to inject again or make alive the FM receiver, and let's try to see if the amplifier really works. It works. Okay, it works. Okay, so that's the so-called function of a transistor. The number one function in electronics is actually as an amplifier. And for it to work, there should be a good supply voltage. And like what I said, this is a do-it-yourself 12 volt regulator injected on the amplifier for it to operate. Okay? Good evening from Los Angeles. This is Professor David J. De Los Reyes.